This is who we are. We are excited. We have the unique ability to take on a project we never thought we would need to or want to tap into a market we never dreamed that we could, to do a B2C activation instead of just B2B. And our people are so talented that to have the flexibility to run 100 miles in one direction and then turn and run 100 miles in the other direction equally as successfully is really exciting. And it allows us to not necessarily say no to a project just because we've never done it before. We like to have the ability to embrace that experimentation again. And just because we haven't done it doesn't mean we don't know how and couldn't figure it out. So,
welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we look at living company core values and the leadership principles that make fast growth possible. Our special guest is the CEO of Haute, and Alisa Haynes and I really talk about not only the core values, but also the leadership principles that she has adopted in her journey of creating a fast growth company. Now, they've made the Inc. list twice, and what we end up talking about is the values of a company and how they use them inside their day-to-day, and really, how do we live company core values? Living the company core values is something that people will say, but they're not really doing it. And so today we unpack what doing it really looks like. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We have a leadership development platform where we turn managers into leaders. If you're curious about some of the things that we do and how we work with fast growth companies, and you want to dip your toe into the pond, if you will, then we actually do virtual conversations every month. Once a month, we have executives of fast growth companies or clients of ours, people who've been guests on the show, people that are just in the Inc. 5000, coming together for this one topic. And we discuss it in some unique ways, sharing data, sharing strategies, sharing kind of the myth of things that don't work, all of this to really serve you to be a great leader. If you're curious, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. You can sign up for free and you can see if the topic resonates for you. And if you sign up, we'll get you all the things that you need to show up and participate with us every month. Again, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Now, here's the interview with Alisa. Alisa, how are you?
great. Happy to be here.
We're going to have a great conversation. I'd love for you to let us know a little bit more about your company, Haute.
Haute is a marketing and events agency. We are based out of Austin, Texas, though, of course, have employees all over the country and all over the world now, that we produce pretty global events of all sizes and really focus on the marketing aspect. So holistically assisting our clients with, furthering their sales objectives, ensuring that they have the enablement between marketing and sales to increase their ROI. But we also have a media studio, so kind of have the unique capabilities to have a lot of in-house services and have a lot of fun doing it, quite frankly.
Well, I'm wondering how things have changed since COVID. And I would imagine that things are a little bit different. Some things are probably the same. How would you say that things are different?
Oh, vastly different. I think what was fortunate, and I will say, we were in the right place at the right time going into the pandemic because of our media studio. So fortunately for Haute, we were able to grow during a time when I know a lot of our friends, competitors had a tougher time pivoting to be remote and virtual. Thanks to our media studio, we were able to kind of press the gas pedal instead of slow down. So that helped us have a little bit of a leg up, quite frankly, in the market. And from there, it's been really fun. I think we learned a lot in the virtual component. We tried to push the boundaries and really wanted to ensure audiences were engaged and not just listening to a Zoom speaker, drone on and on. We really embraced experimentation and ensuring that we wanted to make every engagement interactive and not just, again, participatory from a listening standpoint. So pandemic changed our business quite drastically. Coming out of the pandemic, what was nice, and we very wholeheartedly believe in the power of human to human connection. Mm-hmm. And while we recognize that virtual events or activations certainly have a place and a need and a reach, right? There's nothing to replace that in person. So because of our kind of active, we will come back if events and meeting in person is irreplaceable. Post-pandemic, we really doubled down on that. And that was helpful and really paid off. We saw, I think everybody was anxious to get back out there, after a couple of years. And so the business definitely grew with it. But what was nice is because we had the opportunity to build the trust of our customers during the pandemic, they grew with us. So increased capabilities, we acquired companies that added to our portfolio of services, and who Haute is today versus pre the pandemic is quite a grown-up agency these days, it's been fun.
You've got a lot of employees. I know some of them are probably temporary because of the experiential elements of your event. How do you keep that kind of culture and leadership in check as your company has grown?
It's a learning, and it was a work in progress. I have to certainly be transparent about that. We have currently 52 full-time, so probably a handful of flex or part-time from there. And it wasn't without its growing pains, certainly. As we've transformed as an agency, we've spent a lot of time, even in the past recent months, putting a definition of our characteristics of employees down on paper and really agile. And if you're nimble and if you are ready to kind of roll with the punches and pivot and change, you'll have a blast working with us. However, if none of those adjectives resonate with you, if you like to be surrounded by very rigid structure, more corporate environment, we would probably drive you crazy. So identifying the right people who enjoy working with us based on those characteristics has been really key, because we've found the talent that thinks that's fun and gets energy out of that kind of environment. In turn, the people feed off of having the right people in the right place, and the culture from there kind of organically grows because we all have that same energy and passion around whatever's coming next. Let's all figure it out together. And that was the difficult part of the process, is certainly because we had such hyper growth, we had to get heads in the positions and warm bodies, so to speak. And we had growing pains from that too, right? We frustrated our top talent and had to make some tough decisions about letting others go. And so we've now learned, really defining these characteristics of who will have a blast working with us, who has fun working with us, are these types of people. Let's go get these people. And that's been a big change. We're very big on our core values. I know, hopefully many companies are as well, but we've developed these core values since Haute's inception, and we live and breathe them. We talk about them all the time, and they're more important to us than revenue, or chasing the next big client. If the client and the employees that we have fit within our core values here, that's the type of people that we want to work with. So I think it's just, again, surrounding ourselves with the right people who identify as XYZ characteristics of a company.
I like the way you framed this in for us. And I think those that are listening in should be able to see very clearly that if those people are not in alignment with agile and nimble and flexibility, that it does frustrate not only you, but probably others that are naturally leaning toward those characteristics. And that's what you're really talking about there, is making sure we have a group of people together that are operating from the same standpoint and what they believe in. Does that change the way you guys are being creative?
Yeah, it does. And I think it actually allows us the ability to go run a million miles at a wall and not feel restricted. And I think that's what we really realized is, frankly, there would be times when we would set out a strategy in the beginning of the year and have all of these goals, both financial, client goals, acquisition goals, and something would come up and we would change path, and that would frustrate some. And it took a toll on me as the leader to think, okay, it's hard to set a strategy when we continue to change. And then I had to really take a few steps back and think, this is who we are. We are excited. We have the unique ability to take on a project we never thought we would need to or want to tap into a market we never dreamed that we could, to do a B2C activation instead of just B2B. And our people are so talented that to have that flexibility to run 100 miles in one direction and then turn and run 100 miles in the other direction equally as successfully is really exciting. And it allows us to not necessarily say no to a project just because we've never done it before. We like to have the ability to embrace that experimentation again. And just because we haven't done it doesn't mean we don't know how and couldn't figure it out. So it's invigorating once we kind of put that pressure aside to stick to some plan, best laid plans, and responsibly chase a new dream.
We've been talking about core values with Alisa, and I wanted to really mention this: living your values. The very first time I heard this phrase was in a speech about 5 years ago. Brene Brown was the speech, giving a keynote right before me, and she asked the audience, have you operationalized your values? In other words, are you living your values? And I repeat that with you today because you want to make sure that not only you say that as a leader, but you want your people to know what these values are, know how important it is for us to keep that kind of standard when we are hiring people and when we're developing people, and that when we exit people that don't have alignment with our standards or our values. And so we want to make sure that we're living the values every chance we get. That is what it takes to make the most of the values side of today's conversation. Back to Alisa. Alisa, we've been talking about like the people. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk about your leadership principles. What really guides your leadership of your team right now?
I would say belief in the company and trust back. That obviously is a two-way street. I really am not a micromanager by any means, and I expect each department head or VP in our case to run their department like a business, like it's their own, make the decisions. Obviously, they've got budgets and they've got their own departmental goals that they need to reach, but do what they need to do to empower their teams, to empower their people. But we've really adapted the Patrick Lencioni mantra of team one. And it's important that we don't silo each department off, but is my leadership team ultimate priority the executive team or their own individual department? And we've struggled with that, and we're at a great place now, because if they place the importance of their individual department, we won't get anywhere. They have to put their executive team as number one, the vision of myself and my C-suite before the needs of their department. And that's how we will grow and grow together. And we've had some growing pains in that area as well, for sure. But I'm really proud that since I've became CEO 3 years ago, we haven't had any change in leadership. And that's because I think, as cheesy as it sounds, we really do live by those core values. We reward, we have fun, we go on executive leadership retreats, and we practice what we preach.
We've been coming back to the values again, which is perfectly fine. I was actually had a chance to go to a company retreat. One of my clients was doing this, and they got up on their stage, and I didn't expect them, but they were talking about how their values played into all the awards that were being given out to the organization. And it's just such an easy thing to do. But I think a lot of people forget that we're here to do more than just execute, right? Just to get the project done. Because if you get the project done and it's not done right, or the people are not, or at edge with each other, it doesn't work over a long period of time. And so how do you lead your team of creatives through the challenges of everything changing so fast in today's world?
Well, I think what's exciting about that, and that's funny, we actually did our in-person all hands in this past January, and for the first time also handed out awards based on our core values. So right on track there. We are a 7-8-year-old company, and certainly have great foundations now with policies and processes in place, but we almost still act as a startup. And why I think that's important is, let's say there might not be a VP position available for a senior director who's looking to advance their career. That's not to say if they put some time and thought into it, into creating a new role, this is how it's going to benefit the company, this is how it's going to benefit the client, and this is why I bring these skill sets to the table. Great, I can create a position for you in that regard. And I think that's really, hopefully, an exciting offering, that we don't have to follow some strict path to promotion that may exist in 25 years when so-and-so finally retires. The world is our oyster. If there's a need and if there's a great business plan put together, we can allow our employees to grow in whatever direction that they want, as long as, it's within the realms of what we do. I can't maybe send you as an astronaut to space, but I can certainly create a new type of creative role if you think that that's something that's of interest.
Now, I want to pause here for a second because Alisa talked about acting as a startup. Now, you may be thinking, well, we are a startup. We've got 100 employees or we've got 10 employees. Well, as you get bigger, you get a little further away from being a startup. And you want to make sure that even though you may have 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people or more, that you continue to innovate, you continue to move fast. You might even embrace a little bit of failure as you move forward, and getting your culture to do that keeps you in that startup range, because startups are willing to try new things. They're willing to gamble a little bit. They're going to take calculated risk, if you will, is another way to put that. But you want to make sure you're doing that as well. And you're talking about that quite often with your culture, because if you grow up and you become more corporate, I have a feeling that you're not going to like it the way you would really like for your company to run. You really want people to collaborate together and to trust each other. And you want to make sure you're doing that from the perspective of everyone treats their work as they're a startup. And so that's just a reminder here that it does work and that you can do it with ease if you're willing to put attention to it and lead your people powerfully. Back to Alisa. We've been talking about core values and leadership. When you look at your company now, Haute, and what you've achieved 2 times being on the Inc. list, what is it that we haven't talked about that you feel like really makes a big difference for your growth and strategic, impact?
I think something that we've done well is transparency with our team members, sometimes maybe too much so, because we're constantly dreaming and changing. And some people might say, what happened to that plan? But we really do believe in transparency. We share our revenue numbers, our profit goals with everybody, and share how they attribute or contribute, I should say, to those profit goals. And while it may have been uncomfortable in some situations when we're not hitting our goals, it's always, it's helped to build a really solid level of trust in the executive level from the bottom up. And I think it's not for every business, because you might not always have the ability to be as transparent as possible, but it was important to me so people knew why I needed to make a decision. And I might not be able to explain everything to everybody, but at the very least, I can certainly answer questions. I meet with each department monthly to say, like, throw them at me, hard or soft. If I can't answer it due to some kind of regulations, I will tell you. But I'm very big on transparency, because we do have some professional level people who can handle that.
You may not know of all the research that we've done, but had hundreds of people like you on the show before. And part of that is looking at the factors that go into it. And transparency is one of the most important factors that we actually looked at when we're looking for patterns across companies that are performing at the level that you're performing. So you're right, and good company.
That's good. That's good. It's tough sometimes, because as a leader, you think, I don't know if they can handle this information, because heavy is the head. With this comes some responsibility, but it's worked out in the best way. And I am a believer in transparency.
Well, I've asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it to you, because maybe your answer is a little bit differently. But like, when you've had to be courageous and share with something that's you didn't know if they were ready for, your team members, did they rally for you in most cases, or did they rally against you?
They absolutely did rally for me, but I will say, and I will provide a transparent example. There was a point in the company with which we were potentially going to be acquired or sell to a private equity firm of some sort, and we were pretty transparent about that process. And in hindsight, because the deal didn't work out, it wasn't a good thing for either party, but we had probably shared a lot, and that caused a little bit of uneasiness, right? Of course, for employees after not having lived through the due diligence process, which for those of us who have bought and sold companies know what a pain that can be. But in hindsight, I wouldn't have changed that. I think it was a door to see why we're making these business decisions, to grow and to reinvest in the company. And although that particular acquisition didn't pan out, it's always something that we're looking at. And I would prefer that route of even having to earn some trust back, rather than really distrusting if we were to drop a bomb on our employees out of nowhere. So
And I will restate in that for the most part, it's happening for you. Like they're coming together and rallying as you share the things that may even make you scared.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't get it right all the time by any means, but we have their forgiveness because we've earned their trust to make mistakes. We can say that wasn't the right decision or we needed to move a different way. And because they know that we're transparent, they forgive us, which is very nice.
I love it. It's a great place for us to stop. Alisa, I really appreciate you being here, sharing your wisdom.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Wow, another great interview here, talking about values and leadership principles. I have talked about it with hundreds of people, but I never get tired of it. Hopefully you don't either, because you're going to learn small little things about how people see values, why they're so important, how they're using them, and you can steal those and put them into your day-to-day so that your culture is as strong as you want it to be. Now, hopefully you see a lot of value in these conversations, but in some cases you want to talk with someone directly because you're not quite sure what the next steps are. Well, we would love to do that for you. We'd love to take time to understand your business, understand what are the things getting in the way of your growth and what you really want, and see if executive coaching or leadership development are any of the solutions you need. So just go to coreelevation.com, find out more about us, and if you can sign up there for a free conversation with me, just go ahead and do that at your pleasure. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.